What's good, everybody? Welcome to Whole Views. Thank you for clicking that thumbnail. My name is Corey, and today we're going to be discussing Civil War by Alex Garland. So I saw Civil War opening weekend. That is a surprise for me. Normally, I don't get the opportunity to do such things. But I didn't rush to do my review, and I didn't rush to put out my thoughts because this is a heavy, dramatic, serious movie, and I wanted to process all my thoughts, feelings, and emotions and really sort through the things I feel like the audience and people in general need to hear about the film. With that being said, check the description for chapters because we're going to talk about the movie and then we're going to talk about what the movie was about, because that itself is way deeper than the actual film that's put on display. So use those chapters in the description, skip around if you choose to do so, and let's get to it. This movie is a damn good movie. It has action, it has drama, and it really makes you wheel spin about the importance of true journalism as well as the brutality of war. You have great performances from Kirsten Dunst, Stephen Henderson, Wagner Moura, and Kaylee Spaney. More than that, you have some really great visuals and some breathtaking shots from director Alex Garland. I know that this movie focuses on photojournalism and war journalism, and you get some great still images as well as some things that I thought would be taken into still imagery. And I wish that I had the movie here so I could screenshot some things and just show you some of these moments that this film puts into perfect frame. The movie visually is very, very impressive, and I don't think that can be overstated. If I'm being quite honest, I feel like this is a movie that's going to pop up at the end of this year, 2024, and get awards consideration because it's one of those that does just the right amount of things, and it does it so well that I imagine people are going to have this in their top 10 lists when they start making their top movies of 2024. It probably is going to be in mine. I don't want to do any kind of spoilers for this movie, but I will say recommendation wise, if you like dramas, if you like serious dark action movies, if you like movies that are politically charged without being left or right leaning, this one is definitely the one for you to check out. Now, with that being said, let's move the discussion from a pretty damn good movie on my scale in the 8, 9, 10 range and move the discussion over to what the movie actually does and what the movie is actually about politically, because this is a political film without actually taking a side. I would say this is one of the most politically essential movies that anyone should watch. It's that way because of what it is. This movie is marketed as an action movie about an American Civil War, and really it's a drama that's about war journalism. And more than that, the reason why people should check it out is because it's not at all about the Civil War. We don't even get reasons as to why the Civil War is being fought. There are a few things that are alluded to, but you don't necessarily get a firm, definitive reason. And that takes the left and right politics, the conservative and liberal politics. It takes it out of the picture and lets you focus on what you really should be focusing on, which is the importance of accurate journalism, as well as the brutality of war and the suffering that it creates, particularly on American soil, something I think that people don't take into enough consideration when they stake their claim on one side or the other. Listen, I'm a gun guy, and I considered doing this review with like my little chest rig and all my AK mags and my AK in hand, and just to kind of drive home this one particular point. Like, the gun guys of that world, I like nothing fancy. He is a very realistic, prepper-minded type individual. I really enjoy his long format videos. He coined an acronym, WROL, which is without rule of law. And he talks about, the things you should do to be prepared to live in a situation that is a WROL situation. One of the points that he drives home, and he's very clear on this, and I think a large portion of our culture, let's say half the gun culture in America, is focused on this idea of being a prepper or being prepared for without rule of law situations. But guys believe that they can get a vest and a plate carrier and a rifle and a sidearm, and they could go do this tactical training course once or twice a year and be very proficient with a gun. And in their mind, that believes that that puts them on the same playing field as the US military, and it does not. As a gun enthusiast, as I watched this movie, it was very clear to me the difference between civilian gunfire and US military fire. You have the single trigger pull of a civilian AR-15 versus the horrendous downpour of fire from fully automatic weapons that the military has. And that alone was captured so beautifully in a scene, and it showed these civilian Minutemen-esque characters fighting against the government. And it's like, this is where the rubber meets the road, and I think people need to see it. More than the gunfire, when you think about a WROL situation, and in this particular situation, a nation at war, there was something else that was much more noticeable to me. And it's another thing that I believe people don't take into account. It's all the conveniences that people normally expect that were going undone throughout the movie. So without doing any spoilers, if you watch this movie, look around for cell phones. You won't see them. Yes, we are in modern times where phones exist, but what is a world without people going to work on a regular basis? Well, there's not going to be a reliable cell network. There's not going to be reliable power. I watched this movie and I noticed there's no school buses running. You don't see kids like playing outside. And there's one in particular scene where you do see kids kind of like living their life, but it's addressed and it's for a special reason why it's like that. There's a few times in this movie where shopping takes place. And so as Americans and as a modern world, we have our money largely in banks, and then it becomes basically a digital currency. If no one's going to work, how do you access that? You don't. That's the key. If people did have cash on hand, the US dollar incredibly devalued. And you saw that on display in this film. I just feel like it's incredibly important to note after watching this movie. I think about all the people who in their minds are willing to fight against a tyrannical government. And just because you have the means to take on that fight, I wonder if you will have the will to fight that fight. When people in your life are suffering and they are dependent upon you to be the rock in this specific situation. Now, if I'm being honest, I took notice of all these things. The movie really focuses on the journalism, the importance of it, as well as the brutality of war. The suffering that I'm talking about, you know, the people going without medicine and the people without food and, you know, potable water. All those things are things that I noticed, but the film really doesn't focus on them too much. And I'm not knocking it for that. I'm just saying it got my wheel spinning, and that's a good thing in my opinion. I hope more people look at this movie and get their wheel spinning and kind of reality check themselves as to how much they are willing to fight against a tyrannical government, because it may not go as simple as you think. There are many states in this nation that, you know, talk about secession, and I think the vast majority of Americans are dependent on the systems that the US government has in place. Most people are dependent on the rule of law. I feel like many people on the left and the right are delusional about how much they are actually dependent on those systems, and how would this so-called secession actually go if people were to follow through with it, just given the divisiveness of US politics at the time. What are your thoughts? Did you watch the movie? Did you have some of the same thoughts as I did? Did you notice the difference between civilians and military? Did you notice that, hey, life is actually not very good for those people in the United States as we saw it on display in this film? All those things were on my mind. I just want to know, is anybody else thinking how I'm thinking? But let me know if you choose to do so in the comment section. And that's all we have for this one, y'all. Enjoy yourself. Guard your heart. Go watch something good.